For more, let's bring in former National Advisor to Vice President Pence and former NSC Chief of Staff, General Keith Kellogg. General, good to see you. 18 months, General, we went without a combat death in Afghanistan. Granted, the previous administration started the talks with the Taliban. They said they were going to leave, but with 2,500 troops and with Bagram Air Base, we seem to have things under control. Just your general thoughts about how it devolved so quickly.
Yeah, well, first of all, David, thanks for having me. Look, the first thing I'd like to say is the condolences to the Marines and the corpsmen that we lost today. You know, Americans ought to get down on their knees at night and thank God that we have men and women that are willing to go forward and serve like they're serving us, and they're heroes. Look, this thing is obviously now we're in a binary situation, and just let me tell you what if I was recommending something to the President, Vice President. You walk in the door and you say, look, you've got two options, Mr. President. One of the options is you continue what you're doing right now and you leave. You collapse the airhead and get out by 31 August. The other option, the option I'd recommend, is you go in to the President and you say, as Commander-in-Chief, you pick up the phone and you call the political advisor to the Taliban, Mullah Baradar. He's got to be on speed dial because your director of the CIA talked to him last week, and you say to him, look, that 31 August deadline is gone. We're going to stay in place till we get every single American out of Afghanistan that needs to get out of there, and the allies that we have with them, and pull them out and make it very clear to them, we're not going. This isn't a request of you. This is what we're telling you what we're going to do, because that's the primary thing we need to do.
But General, forgive me for interrupting, but we just had the head of CENTCOM, General McKenzie, come on and give a report. He said we have to evaluate our procedures but continue with the mission. What you're saying is we have to redefine the mission.
Yeah, David, that's what I would do. If I was recommending courses of action to the President and Vice President, I would have walked in and said, that's what we need to do. The situation has changed on the ground. To me, that was, and I know Ken McKenzie very well, that was a very sterile briefing. I mean, you basically say, a little bit of emotion to it. You're not going to do this to Americans. This has got, David, international ramifications now. Everybody is watching what President Biden is going to do. I am talking about friends, the Brits and the French, and the enemies that we face out there, from the Russians to the Chinese. Everybody is now taking the measure of the man. And look, our great men and women in uniform that are there in Bagram, I'm sorry, I wish it was Bagram, at Karzai International Airport, they understand risk. They know the risks out there, but they know what their job is, and that's to get Americans out of there. And regardless of what it takes, they will do that if they're told to do that, and they should be given those directions.
Yeah, General, I want to share with you another soundbite from General McKenzie. We don't want to pile up here, but he said something that a lot of people found very disturbing about our cooperation with the Taliban, and I have no problem calling them terrorists. Whether they were actually behind the attacks today is another question we'll get to, but let me just play that soundbite from the General and get your reaction. Roll tape.
We cut down the information we give the Taliban. They don't get the full range of information we have, but we give them enough to act in time and space to try to prevent these attacks. So we share a common purpose. As long as we've kept that common purpose aligned, they've been useful to work with.
Are you comfortable with that, General, with the fact that we are giving them sensitive intel right now, the Taliban?
Yeah, it's bothersome to me that we would do that. I think that it's a question of, do you trust them? And the answer is no.
Absolutely not. Even the president has said he doesn't trust them.
Yeah. Well, and the second part of that, it's a very loose organization. It's like a federation or confederation of forces. There's no command and control like we understand in the U.S. military. It's just not. There's not a good line diagram. And when you look at the forces out there, it's really kind of a ragtag group, and I'm not too sure there's any coordination they can provide. So I don't know who we're talking to, and I don't know how the command and coordination works among them. Yeah. So you've got to start at the top level. You got to start with their senior leadership and tell them, look, this is what we're going to do. And we're not asking you, we're telling you what we're doing. And we need to push the perimeter out, get the Americans out, and collapse it when we decide to collapse it now and when we feel comfortable that we've got the job done.
Now, President Biden's aides and the Taliban were speaking alike in saying that there's a kind of civil war between the Taliban and ISIS-K and a number of other terrorist groups. There may be infighting and so forth, but do you buy that? Because some people have gone so far as to suggest this could have been a false flag attack. That is to say that perhaps the Taliban wanted to speed up the departure of Americans, and they might have been behind the attack. Do you have any thoughts in that regard?
Yeah, I wouldn't, David, I wouldn't speculate. I do know that the ISIS-K and the Taliban, they don't like each other at all. But the fact of the matter is both of them don't like us. So, it's sort of like a combined effort. We're getting hit with the left hand or the right hand. So right. I don't trust either group. The only people I trust are those great American men and women we've got on the line there at Karzai International Airport. And they'll get the job done, but we've got to get it done right. And I think having a date certain, 31 August, we should just tell them, nope, it's going to be done when we're done.
But General, you're talking to the father of a Marine here who spent a year in Afghanistan, and he's still in the Marine Corps. And I share, I think, the nervousness of a lot of families, of Marines, of sailors, of corpsmen, of all kinds of service people that are now in much greater harm's way than they were several weeks ago. We wonder whether this commander-in-chief is up to the job, frankly, is up to the job. He countermanded, apparently, the opinion of a lot of his chief military advisors in pulling out of Bagram prematurely, as a lot of people now recognize it was. And we wonder whether he's capable of leading our children. What would you tell military families like mine?
Well, first of all, please pass on everybody's thanks for your son's service. Look, my daughter served in Afghanistan. My son served in Afghanistan. My son-in-law served in Afghanistan. I understand it, and I understand the concerns they always have when they go there. I think the entire world tonight is going to watch what is going to happen at 5 p.m., and they're going to find out the will of the American president. What is he going to do, and how does that impact international ramifications? And does he have the back of the young men and women that we have out there? Look, everybody, and you know this from your son, the military members understand risk. They accept risk. They know the dangers, but it's got to be a good mission, solid mission, and they need to know that the commander-in-chief has their back.
Well, you mentioned a couple of solid missions. We've run out of time, but I just want to mention one, the retaking of Bagram Airport. Everybody's saying that if that could be resecured, if we could take that back from the Taliban, that would be a much better staging ground than what we have in Kabul right now. Is it too late for that?
Yeah, honestly, David, I think it is. I think we have to work with what we have in hand, and you can push the perimeter out from Karzai International Airport. It would be almost, could you do it? Of course you could do it. The American military could do anything they're told to do out there. But I think right now, if the intent is to get the Americans out of Afghanistan, they can handle that from Karzai Airport, International Airport. But they're going to have to be given the mission to go out there and get those Americans to the airport, and any of the Afghans that want to go with us. Right now, they should have never given Bagram up, but they did, and I think they can handle the mission with the location they're at right now.
General Kellogg, it's good to hear your calm voice. You offer very tough missions, but at the same time, you do so in a manner that gives us all a little calm, and we need it now. And again, God bless those service people who died today. God bless the Afghans who died as well. There was a lot of death, too much of it, going on in a place that had been relatively peaceful, despite the location and the dangerousness of that nation. Appreciate you being here, General. Thank you again.